All right. Hi, I'm Mike Cerrone with Mastermind Agent, and welcome to the Referral Mastermind call. Today, the format of the call, we're going to do three things. One, I'm going to give you kind of a new idea that might help you out with getting more repeating referrals. Two, we're going to open up for Q&A. If you have any questions, issues, concerns, thoughts you'd like to chat about on how you can get more repeating referrals, we'll talk about that. And then number three, we're going to open it up to anything you'd like to talk about on how to improve your business and get more of it. So let's go ahead and start off with, as we're waiting for people to join us, I'm going to go ahead and give a quick idea on how to get more repeated referrals. If you look out at the market today, we're sitting here at the end of December 2022. Our market has gone through quite a bit of transition. We started with interest rates at 3% at the beginning of the year. Now interest rates are closer to 7%. That 4% increase has knocked out 40% of the buying power of the typical purchaser. If you were to look at their payment can now buy a 40% less property. So let's say they could afford a $1 million loan at the beginning of the year. Today, they can only afford a $600,000 with the exact same monthly payment. If they were sitting at $500,000 at the beginning of the year, now they're sitting at $300,000. So it's dramatically affected their purchasing power. They're having to look at smaller homes. And the expectation is if this continues, that prices will come down a little bit to adjust to that new reality. We'll see if that plays out or not. So that's an idea to think about. In this environment, the question is, where is the opportunity? Where is the opportunity? So let's look at this market, and we'll look at it in three different ways. I think we've got three different segments. This came from one of the top agents that we just had in our recent Solo Agent Summit that were recorded, and we're going to be presenting here in January. But this top agent basically said, hey, look, I look out at the market, I see three segments. I see the upper end, I see the middle, and I see the bottom. She said, you know, the middle, I think, is frozen. I think the middle is frozen. I think what's happening there is we've got people who got into a mortgage when they were really low, 3%. I just talked to a guy the other day. He has a 2.3% 30-year fixed. Just incredible. So he's got a very low monthly payment. These folks, they don't want to lose that monthly payment just to move up to a bigger house. They're having a big challenge with that. So if they were going to move up to a house that's twice as valuable, twice as expensive as the home they have today, their payment won't double. Their payment may triple or even quadruple depending on where they are with the rates. And so that's a very hard pill for them to swallow. So a lot of these people in the middle, they're not moving. And that's why she was saying she feels it's kind of frozen, and she thinks it's going to be that way for a while till people adjust to the new reality or have a life event that requires them to move. Again, births, deaths, right? They have a bunch of kids. They need a bigger place. That'd be one. Two, there's a death in the family. There's some stress, some financial stress. They need to size down. That would be another. But these life event changes are going to continue to cause people to move. The market will never go to zero. Keep that in mind. But it can slow down and speed up. And we just saw a very fast pace for the last 2 years. And now it's ebbing and flowing and slowing back down. Point is this, middle market is a bit frozen. And she's probably right about that. Then she said, hey, look, I look out and I look at the upper end. I look at the luxury market, the high-end market. And when I look at that market, I'm seeing that there are a lot of people up there who are buying with cash. They don't need financing. And so the interest rates are not affecting them as much. And so she believes it's free flowing. Now, I'll add to that it may be true that the interest rates are not affecting them, but the wealth effect is certainly affecting them, right? Their stock market is coming down a little bit. They're not feeling as confident about their investments. It's not as easy to make the cash flows that they've made in the past. Maybe their business is slowing down because of the changes in the economy. And so I would argue the wealth effect may affect that market as well. I haven't got any hard stats on that yet, but that's what I'm expecting to come out. Again, these statistics are typically in arrears. We're going to be looking backwards as they pop out. Then she said, hey, look, Mike, I look at the third segment of the market as the lower end. It's the first-time home buyers. These are the people that are coming in. These first-time home buyers, these are the people that are coming in and they want to get a new property for the first time. So we're typically talking about renters. And she said, I think that renter is going to be a very strong segment of our market. She said, these folks don't care about the interest rate. What they're concerned about is getting out of renting and into ownership, home ownership. And they only care about the ultimate monthly payment. Now, of course, as interest rates are higher, the monthly payment is higher, but it's a relative thing because rents have been going up and continuing to move up. We'll see if that trend continues through the future. But because of so much corporate money that's come in, Wall Street money has come into that apartment market, the consolidation, rents continue to move up. That pressure on those higher rents is going to cause them to look at the difference between owning and renting on the monthly payment scale. And she believes that's going to continue to tip into the market where these first-time home buyers are going to want to get in. So she sees a lot of activity at that lower end. And she mentioned that when she got started 18 some years ago, that was the market that she excelled at and won at. So she feels very confident moving into that. I'll also mention that historically, that lower first-time home buyer market, the lower first-time home buyer market historically has been about 40% of the overall market. Okay, so that's a good stat to know. Now, recently, with all the activity in the market, that's changed. We have a lot of investors in the market. And I think that first-time home buyer market, I heard this, I haven't read it, but I heard it got down to around 23, 25%. Okay, so if you know that historically it's around that 40%, odds are it's going to kind of move back towards equilibrium. And it just makes logical sense. We're going to see more first-time home buyers moving into the market and wanting to acquire their house. So that's where I think we see an opportunity. That's where she saw the opportunity. And and now for the lesson here, if you're going to be reaching out to your repeated referrals from your past clients and sphere of influence, here's what I think you should be doing. So I'm finally getting to the punchline. The punchline is I think that you should be reaching out with some marketing to your PCSOI and say, hey, do you have a kid who may be thinking about going from renting to owning? Okay, so if we're talking about a middle-aged person, they may have a child who's now coming into their late teens, early 20s, who may want to get out of rent and start getting into ownership. By the way, mom and dad can maybe help with a little bit of down payment on a gift letter, for instance, with an FHA loan. They may be a veteran with a VA loan. There's a lot of ways for them to get in. Their biggest obstacle is the down payment, the 20% down on a typical requirement of the old conventional. And as markets soften, lenders start to create harsher restrictions on their loans. So that's probably going to happen where the amount of down payment required, at least in the conventional market, is going to increase from whatever it is today, say 3%, 5%, 10%. They're going to be either increasing the amount that someone has to put down and or making it more restrictive for these first-time buyers. As far as they may need higher FICO scores, they may have more difficult ratios, et cetera. So that's where it's also helpful if a parent can come in and co-sign on that first purchase for the child and help them get in. That's the other reason to be reaching out to your PCSOI. Not only do they know people who could use your service, i.e. maybe their kid or their friend of their kid or their nephew or their somebody in the family, maybe their niece. Not only do they have that source of the lead itself, they may have the ability to assist and help out. And in that vein, I'm just going to throw out a quick idea. If you start to work in this market and deal with these deals, common things for people to do are to team up. Okay, so you have two young people, especially two siblings, they could team up and buy a house together. Okay, they can combine their income, combine their credit. I've also seen it where older sibling helps a younger sibling in equity share situation. That's very popular on FHA. In fact, it's how my wife purchased her first home. Her older sister was able to put in the down payment, and my wife had the income to work as well as they both had credit. So they were both able to get on the loan. They shared the ownership of the property. When the property was eventually sold, they split the equity. but that allowed my wife to get in. It allowed her sister to have their first investment property. So it worked for both of them. So you want to start thinking creatively like that. These are the solutions you need to help people with. So again, coming back to the punchline is you should be reaching out and creating a little marketing piece where you're going out to your PCSY, your sphere of influence, your past clients, and letting them know that there's an opportunity here for these first-time home buyers to get in. Now I'm going to add one more plus on top of all this, and that is this. You should be looking into your local market, especially into your state. Your state probably runs a program where they're doing some kind of down payment assistance. Down payment assistance program is what you're looking for. DPA, down payment assistance programs, they may have different names. I'm here in Colorado. We have something called CHAFA. Colorado Housing Finance Authority does this. They have CHAFA and CHEC. They have all kinds of different things. You've got to learn your local programs no matter where you are. So if you're in Tennessee or if you're in Texas, I know a couple of people on the call. If you're up in Toronto, you want to look around and see if you've got some kind of down payment assistance program in your area. For instance, in my area, there's a program where a first-time home buyer can buy a property with just $1,000 out of their pocket. Okay, so they do basically an FHA loan. It can be combined with a conventional, but the typical one is an FHA loan, which usually requires 3.5% down, and then say another 2 to 3% in closing costs. That money could be gifted, but if there's no one to gift it, then you can turn to one of these down payment assistance programs, and if the person qualifies, they're either able to get a second mortgage in that place or even a gift or a grant for the down payment. These programs are pretty cool, and you should be checking them out to see how you can assist people. Again, if you want to work this third tier, this entry level of the market, which appears to continue to flow, this is something you want to have in your back pocket to help people out. And in fact, I'll go one more step further, and that is you can use it in part of your marketing to attract people to you, to let them know that this is available. Okay. This is something you should all look at and consider and tie into your marketing for your repeating referrals. Again, the concept is to take this idea of a first-time buyer program, take this idea of getting repeating referrals from your list, your PCSY, and combine the ideas, reach out to your sphere, let them know, hey, there's these, do you know anybody who's thinking about buying their first home? Got these really cool programs where they can get in with very little down, either 3.5% FHA, 3% conventional, even have a program where they can get in with $1,000 cash, but I do have to talk to them to find out if they qualify, have them give me a call. So that's kind of the carrot and the reason for them to reach out and talk. You're probably going to get some parents calling you up wanting to find out about it. Now you're talking real estate. Anytime you're talking real estate, things happen and it's awesome. It also is showing that you're available, you're thinking about them, you're trying to be creative in this market, and that you're active. So that's just the big idea I want to share with you today to get you your thoughts flowing. And that's that. So if you want to talk more about that idea, let me know. If you have, let's open this up to phase 2, which is where we're going to talk about, and again, the 3 things we do on the call. 1, I give you a quick idea. 2, we open it up for Q&A on anything for referrals, repeating referrals. And number 3, we open it up to talk about anything about your real estate practice. So if you would like to chat with us or on any of these topics, let's go ahead and open it up now. Just unmute yourself and let me know what you're thinking. Anybody have anything they want to say?
Hey, Mike,
Hey, Blake.
I love this. Looking for a down payment assistance. The first thing that came to mind to me was USDA loans, which are, because they are prevalent in my market, on the edge of the market, and actually where I live, just down the road could be a USDA loan. So that would qualify too, but I see what you're saying is, why not make that what you hang your hat on for a little while with your marketing? Say, and say exactly what the program is, or say how, what what it's going to do for you, maybe the benefit of the program if you don't explain what the program is. I think that's great. So you're saying there's a number of them on a state level even, and perhaps local?
Yeah. So let me give you some more info on this. This is good point. One, you caught the idea quick, which you always do, Blake. Good job. And that is that you can hang your hat on, I think is the way you said it. It's going to be the focal point. Let me just say a general statement first. I want everybody to get, when you're doing your marketing of any kind, you need to narrow it and talk about one topic. If you talk about too many topics, you confuse your audience. They don't know what you're talking about and they will turn you off. So just talk about one topic. And so in this case, you would just talk about one program, for instance. You could have multiple reach outs where you just talk about one program, like the USDA you just mentioned. Okay. So USDA, I have not worked a lot with that, but my understanding is it's a rural type program. It typically works in the rural areas, and it's a really cool program, right? And so you could do a whole little segment on, you go educate yourself on it, and you learn whether the benefits, remember, it's always the benefits and not the features. What do people get? So in our example earlier, it's, hey, buy a home for $1,000 out of your pocket, right? That's the benefit. That's the huge overarching benefit. It's not, hey, you need this kind of FICO and you need this kind of credit score, this kind of ratio, and you need this kind of background. That's the features, and that's a later conversation. You got to talk about the benefits to get people excited to come in. Hey, get into your own home, paint the walls any color you want, have a pet if you want, stop paying your landlord money and making them rich. There's a lot of frustration when you're a tenant. You want to start thinking about what were the problems when you were a tenant, or things you don't like or didn't like, or talk to some tenants and ask them and find out what those frustration points are. That should be what's going on in the marketing piece, but it should only be about this one program and how cool it is and how it solves this problem. You got to point out the problem. The problem is, hey, you don't have to put out 20%, say on a $500,000 home in our area, that'd be $100,000. That's a lot of cash. Instead, you could do it for $1,000. That's 1/100th of the required down payment in our area. Our area, these programs go up to $568,000. So it's incredible. You got to learn all these particulars. And you would think, by the way, a lot of agents and people have misconceptions about these programs. For instance, in my area, you can earn up to $94,000 to get one of these assistants. And in fact, they even have programs that are just a slight twist on it, up to 117 for a family. And I think they even could go up to as high as 175,000 a year and still get some type of assistance. It's incredible. The programs are out there. You have to learn what the terms are, and then you can share those in your dialogue and conversation when you're chatting with people, and they're going to be pretty surprised at what's out there. Again, for people who are joining us, we're talking about reaching out to get repeating referrals by going to your sphere and mentioning one segment of the market. In this case, the segment of the market being first-time home buyers. So Blake, let's go down this path a little bit further. The places that you're going to see these programs. So the FHA, of course, is a federal government. A federal program, with the federal government, but then the states will usually do the supplemental type things for these first-time home buyers. So it's either going to be a statewide program, but then also look into your counties and your cities, because they will often have some kind of program specialized to them. You're going to create a list of all these DPAs, down payment assistance programs, where they help out with folks and what their terms are, and then in that way, when you start a dialogue with someone, they say, well, what's the program? You say, well, I don't know what you qualify for yet. Tell me a little bit about yourself. And you're now starting the conversation. What are you looking for? What are you trying to do? What's your background? And then in your mind, you're trying to be a broker. You're trying to match them up. Right? You're trying to see what do they have and what do we have, and you can match them together. Now, you can bring in a lending partner to help you with this because they're going to have some knowledge about it, but I'll warn you, not all lenders know about these programs, nor do they want to deal with them because they are difficult. They're lower end in your market, lower price range. They're restrictive on the payment that the lender can get. Usually the lender gets this much, but on these deals, they can only get this much. And so a lot of lenders don't want to do it, especially if they don't have the long-term view of, hey, I'm going to get this person in, then I can help them later and help them later again, right? All about repeat and referral. If they don't have that attitude, they're the wrong person. You want to try to find someone, if possible, who's already done, a lender who's already done these kind of programs, because they're going to be able to back you up and support you, answer questions for the customer, and help guide them through the process. But if you're willing to go down that path, you're creating a long-term business, and most importantly, you're going to make some income today, which is really hard in the market. It's getting difficult out there. Agents already know it because they're on the front lines. The media and everything is behind. I was just talking to somebody else the other day. They're like, yeah, because these stats are talking about October and November, they don't really see the catastrophe that we're sitting, this change in the market yet. And they're not assessing how quickly this has adjusted. Now, by the way, the doom and gloom is out there. That's fine. I want everybody on this call to know, though, to raise your mind and realize activity happens all the time. You go back in history and look at any month and tell me a month where there were no sales. There's always sales, just a variety of reasons, and you're looking for the opportunity. And that's what we're talking about here is where is the opportunity? And based on what this top agent told me, and by the way, the top agent I'm mentioning is Jen Burns, sold 106 homes in 1 year as a solo agent. She's pretty sharp. And she just had assessed the market in these three categories. Said the top was fine, it's moving because it's cash, the middle is frozen, and the bottom is an opportunity because first-time buyers want to get out of renting. I completely agree with her, and that's why we're kind of throwing this idea out there. In the old days, I've been around a long time, 30 years, can't believe it. But anyway, in the old days, there were programs that were nationally set up for this that kind of went away, but keep your eye out for this. It might come back, where FHA allows the down payment to be a gift. Okay, so typically in the old days, it was from family member. Okay, the parents or maybe a sibling, as I mentioned with my wife, something like that. Even seen it where it's the employer. Okay, although it has to be a true gift. That's the hard part. They got to sign that gift letter. It can't be a loan. There were companies that set themselves up as charities. They were charities, but it got kind of wild west there for a while. This is in the 90s. And what happened was a seller would gift money to the charity. The charity would then gift money to the buyer who would use the gift money to buy the home. Sounds crazy, but there were tons of them all over the place there. It was just going hog wild for a while there. I'm just telling you, there's going to be a lot of creativity that comes up, right? There's 2-1 buy downs going on right now. There's 1-1 buy downs, 2-1 buy downs, and even 3-1 buy downs to try to help people get an easier payment when they start. There are adjustable rate mortgages. I recommend you stay away from those still until the spread gets more than 2 points, and then it may become more attractive. It's starting to get there. But again, if you get into that territory, be sure to do a lot of warnings for the buyer that these things can adjust and know where their caps and collars are. Threw a lot out there. Who's got some comments they want to throw on top of this? Anybody have any ideas on this idea of working with first-time home buyers, asking for referrals to first-time home buyers through your sphere, or any of the programs you've either worked with or think we should know about, etc. Go ahead, unmute yourself. Let us know what you think. I know I got a lot of sharp people on this call. I'm seeing the names. Anybody want to say anything about these first-time buyer programs? You think it's a good idea, bad idea? Or have you pursued it? Do you want to pursue it? Do you think it's a waste of time? First-time home buyers can be a pain. That can be tough. That's a tough end of the market. You got to get, by the way, to make these programs work with the $1,000 down, you have to get seller contribution. All right, you got to get the seller to pay for some of the buyer's closing costs. In the last 2 years, that was almost impossible. But hey, that's changing now. Now that the market is slowing down, it's very likely that they're going to be willing to do that. Already hearing this happen all over the place. And in fact, if you have a seller, let's flip this around. if you have a listing and you're trying to get rid of it, something you should consider before you drop the price to attract more buyers is consider offering some concessions, seller concessions instead. So say you're at 500,000, instead of dropping the price down to 475, why don't you offer 3% in concessions? That's only $15,000. So instead of going down 25 grand, you're only going down 15 grand, a $10,000 better improvement for your seller. You're allowing more buyers to come in and look at this property now because you're picking up their closing costs. You got to start being creative. If you haven't been through these slower markets, they're a lot of fun if you're smart and creative. Okay. And they can become very lucrative because people now need you a lot more than they needed you in the fast market. So you're going to see, by the way, your commission rates are going to be increasing. If you ask for more, you're going to get more because you're creating more value. All right. Anybody have any thoughts on this? Go ahead, unmute yourself and let me know what you think. All right, fair enough. Let me look at chat. Make sure I didn't miss anything. Nope, I don't see anything in chat, so we're good. All right, well, let's do this. Let's open up. Well, before I leave the topic, does anybody have anything you want to say or ask about the first-time home buyer referral idea? All right, I'm going to leave that one there, and hopefully that's a gem you can use and run with. Let's move on then. Do you have any questions about or comments or success stories about getting more repeat and referral? If you do, go ahead and unmute yourself. Let us know what you're thinking. Again, this is an open session where we share and try to throw ideas back and forth.
Mike,
Hey, Angela.
I've had really a lot of success with repeat and referral from investors. And over the years, I've worked with a lot of investors. And the great thing about investors is that they are always looking for another property. And I have some investors that that fix and flip, and I have some that hold. So just kind of keeping that in mind, but it's a continuous, it's not kind of like your traditional buyer.
This is really great, Angela. I love it because we don't tend to think that way when we think about our PCSOI or past clients' sphere of influence. And yet that could be your market and a niche, and you've already opened and developed that and opened it up. Let's ask you a couple quick questions about it. I'm sure people are curious. I would think the two things that they'd be the most curious about with working with investors are, number one, how do you find them? Then number two, how do you stay in front of them to make sure that you're there when they're and offering them opportunities? So let's start with the first one, which is, how did you bump into investors and start this? Where did you find these investors to start working with?
So originally it came from just word of mouth, and a couple of investors were asking for a local realtor, and I was referred to them. And then but also there's a lot of like Facebook groups and different groups that are specifically tailored to people that invest, and some people invest as a group. And so they can purchase the larger properties like apartment complexes and things like that. And so really just getting the word out there that you are experienced or you can help people build their wealth through investment. And I think that that's, their goal is to build wealth. So
that's great. So you mentioned what I heard there was kind of the syndication. The old day would call it syndication. You're bringing a whole bunch of people together to buy a large property. Maybe somebody would normally buy a 1 or maybe 4-unit apartment building, they group with other people, they can buy a 300-unit apartment building, something really large, or a big office building, or a strip mall, or something maybe more than they normally would. And you said you're finding Facebook groups and you're going out and letting those folks know that you're available. I should ask, have you, because commercial, because that starts to get into commercial once it goes past 4 units on residential, are you working as a commercial agent and offering all these different opportunities? Are you niched into one type of opportunity? Are you working just with small investors where they're 4 units and under? What's kind of your niche when you're talking about the investors?
So multifamily has been the niche, but I've also sold a large warehouse because the investor that I was working with, he's got about 100 units, and some of that is industrial and other things. So I've sold a warehouse, but what I found is that other commercial agents will be very helpful. So if there's ever something, because single family is my probably my main business, but when it comes to buying a huge apartment complex, I feel like there's always somebody, even through a different brokerage, that will offer assistance and give me guidance. So
that's cool. That's cool. So again, it sounds like you're reaching out through some Facebook groups, and then I've heard of folks reaching out to their spheres, their PCSOI, and saying, hey, you now own this property. Have you considered owning a second one at the same time and being an investor, right? Have you considered getting, and again, you want to do the benefits. Have you considered getting cash flow and appreciation and depreciation where you can write off your taxes? Have your tenant help you with a principal reduction and getting equity that way. The 4 different ways that you make money as a real estate investor. So you can have some kind of marketing piece that you're reaching out to your past clients saying, hey, I did a great job helping you buy your home. Would you like me to help you buy an investment? Yeah, and I'm just kind of spitballing this idea. You keep talking with me, Angela. Throw out ideas, but I would think you might want to maybe show them an example, like, hey, check out this rental house, and here's the cash flow potential. Here's what the rents are, and here's what the estimated mortgage payment would be, and here's what maybe some cash flow would be on it. And say, hey, do you want to learn more about this? Or maybe give them even a couple of different options of what they could see as far as investments. Maybe even have a postcard with 3 or 4 different investments on it. I always think in postcards because that was my medium in the past. You could do this in social media posts or whatever you want to do, in email. But you have a couple different options with investments, and maybe break out some of the basics and talk about ROI and return on investment. And would you like me to run a sheet for you? And throw out some of the lingo, but remember to dumb down the lingo because you don't know what stage they're at in their investment cycle. What do you think, Angela? Tell me more.
I think that's a really great idea. I'm just now getting to where I am wanting to start marketing in some of those in different ways. A lot of the business that I've had was by referral or kind of on a one-on-one thing. But I think that's a great idea. And the investors that I work with, it comes down to cash flow, and it comes down to, appreciation that they project over the years. And they have money and they want to do something with it. They don't want to just leave it in the bank. So finding those people.
Yeah, and might even be your headline, right? Got some extra cash lying around, wanted to give you a return, especially today, right? The returns are getting really good, and they're finally going to make some money parking their money in a CD or savings account. You find out what that is. Maybe they could park their money in a second, right? So there's a lot of ways that people can become active in the investor market where they're not actually owning the property. An example would be they actually act as a bank, right? And they lend maybe a first or a second, usually a second, a smaller amount on one of these deals to help it go. and they get a return, a much higher percentage because it's a riskier percentage. They get a higher return. Now, of course, you have to educate them on all these risks. By the way, be sure to do all the due diligence risk assessment with them. But the fact is, instead of if interest rates on a first now are 7, a second might be paying 9 or 10, depending on its position and its loan to value. But this is something that's pretty cool. I have an aunt who did really well in that market. Right, she had some extra cash because my uncle was a doctor, and so they had some extra cash to throw around, and they invested in that. They did a lot of seconds, and then they ended up doing the syndication thing you're talking about. It's kind of funny, right? Where they could get together with other people and buy a large unit. People have done that, and you could be part of that. Think about all the cool little pieces of business that you can pick up by helping them. One idea that came to my mind as we're chatting is when you're reaching out to your sphere with these ideas. Again, I want to go back to a marketing principle, and that is you really should talk about one thing. So as I'm thinking about this more, if I were going to do it, I would find one really good investment property. Again, whatever you think that is, it's a house, a duplex, a fourplex, a triplex, a 50-unit apartment building, whatever you think it is, whatever you find is a really cool investment, office building, whatever it is, take it and get some pictures of it. Ask the listing agent if you can advertise. Promote it. By the way, they will agree. I get their permission first. I'm not sure, I'm conflicted on whether you need that or not. But on a project I'm working on, I've been asking agents if I can advertise the information on their property. They're like, oh yeah, please tell everybody. In fact, if you have any questions, please let me know because the market's slowing down. And so anyway, you can then take those pictures and put them on your postcards, or I think Angela even mentioned to me the other day, you could go take your own pictures and put them on the postcard, but you can have some nice pictures because pictures are visual. They want to see what it is, and then give some basic outlines of return and ideas. Just make sure you do a disclosure that this is all estimated and not guaranteed, and they have to do their own research and due diligence. Don't forget to put those disclaimers on the bottom, but you give them some of the ideas, right? Here's what rent is. Here's what estimated expenses are. Here's what we know. Do you want to learn more about this property and go deeper into it? I can help you out with this. Here's, do you want to get wealthy in owning property, owning real estate? The other thing you might want to do if you go down that line is you might want to team up with a property manager, okay? Because a lot of these people are not going to want to do their own property management. For those of us on the call who have done it, it's a real hassle. I mean, you learn a lot, but after a while, boy, what a pain. Unless you have really great systems, it's tough. And so just think about if you were brand new to this investing thing, that's probably one of your fears. That's what you want to ask yourself. What are the fears of the person I'm trying to talk to or market to? And then can I answer them or address them in my marketing? Okay, so can you handle the objection in the marketing before they even get to you? The reason that's important is it allows more free flow of people that come to you easier. You're going to get more people into your schedule, more people calling you, talking to you, et cetera. So hook up with a property manager, find out what their situation is, and you can even add that into your original marketing. You say, hey, you don't want to do the property management? No, you don't want to get calls in the middle of the night about a plugged toilet? No problem. We got a property manager that can help you with this, right? So you say the problem and the solution, et cetera. So you can self-manage, or we can show you some management companies that do it. You got to be prepared for their objections, right, Angela? I assume those kind of things come up. Yeah. Cool. What a great idea. I appreciate that, Angela. I'm looking here at some notes in the chat. I see Juanita. Hey, Juanita said, hey, in Texas, we have the DSCR loan, which is based on cash flow of your property. Huh. Okay. So what kind of loan is that? Juanita, can you hear us? Are you able to tell us what that is? Oh, I think she stepped away. No problem. She comes back, maybe we'll ask.
I can give you a little background on the DSCR loan.
Yeah, go for it.
Sure. It's just in general, it doesn't matter what your credit score is. In fact, they don't even pull a credit score necessarily. It is based on your rents coming in on your property, the income the property is producing. And they'll generally loan you up to about 70 to 75% loan to value on the property. It's very good for somebody who, like a regular investor, like Angela might be dealing with a number of regular people who are investing a lot, and that's all their income, or that's a lot of their income. And they can't go to the bank with their W-2 wages, and they can't go to the bank with their tax returns. Or they might be able to go to the bank, but this would just be a totally separate thing. It has nothing to do with their ability to pay. It's the ability of the property to pay its own bill and the value of the property.
That's a great point, Blake. Thank you. Yeah. And as you get into more into commercial, they start looking more and more at the property. The lenders look more and more at the property, its ability to return cash versus the investor. That's a really good point. I didn't recognize DSCR, but thank you for clarifying that. Do you know what that stands for, those initials?
Yeah, it's debt service something or other. I can look it up here, but
that's all right.
Yeah,
that was really cool. So somebody listening could go check that out and see this. It's very interesting. The DSCR loan in Texas, so based more on cash flow than the investor. Hey, Juanita, I see you back. Do you have anything you want to add?
No, it's basically debt service coverage ratio, which means if you don't have a lot of credit, that's why they base it on the income of your property. It's a property income based loan.
Good. Debt service coverage ratio. Is that what you called it?
Yeah, debt service coverage ratio loan.
Nice.
Blake pretty much covered it real quick. He could have described it better than I would have. Let me tell you that.
Good job, Blake. All right, and Juanita.
Well, and they like Juanita was saying. I don't know if banks even offer that, but I know there are mortgage companies that offer that. So the independent mortgage companies are going to offer DSCR loans. In fact, there's some that specialize in it, and that's what they do. A lot of that.
Remember, anytime you specialize, you're going to have an advantage. Also, work with specialists, right? So work with lenders that specialize in each of these areas. You may have a portfolio of lenders you're going to work with based on what type of buyer you're working with, right? Either a first-time home buyer we talked about earlier. In this case, now we're talking about investors. And inside the investor pool, it may be for different types of property. You're going to have different types of investors that work in different kinds of transactions. Some investors may only do small investment. And I say investors, that's another term for the lending side as well. So some lenders will only do the small properties, the 4 units and less. Some will only go up to 50. Some will go up to 100 or 300 or 500, not have a cap at all. They'll only do residential, or maybe they're going to do warehouse, industrial, other things, maybe office buildings, retail. We don't know what they're going to do. But again, you want to create, you got to think of yourself as a matchmaker, right? You're pulling from all these sources and you're bringing resources and people and tools together to solve a goal. Make sure before you get too deep in that, though, that you've qualified your prospect before you go too far. Yeah, that's an error we sometimes make. We get so excited we forget to find out who is actually driving this thing, and it turns out they can't do it. Although if that happens and you get far into it, and you find out you got this great deal and you got all these resources to help it, take that information, put it into some marketing and put it out to your people. Say, I got this this deal all starting to line up and all the pieces are coming together. The original person just fell out. Do you want to step in their place? Hey, this thing is really cool. Here's what we know so far. Okay. So that's, again, you want to keep thinking that way. How can I reach out and pull these pieces together? That's what we are. We're brokers in the true sense. And we can help people get what they want, and then of course we get what we want. So it all works out. And sometimes you may want to step into these positions. By the way, I'll throw that out here real quick. Don't forget that you could be the investor. You're going to come across great situations in your career if you haven't already, where you can step in. Just remember, if you do that, you make full disclosure to all the parties that you're a licensed real estate agent working to make a profit. Right? Okay. You cannot do that if you're representing someone. You can't have a fiduciary duty to them and yourself at the same time. but you're going to bump into these people in situations where they want you to step in. That's how I first got into it. They actually asked me to buy the property. I went to do a listing appointment. I'm like, what? And I said, oh, if I did, I couldn't make you a very good deal. They're like, we don't care. We want to make this thing happen super fast. It was a slower market. Can you, and they said, well, can you close in 30 days or whatever? I said, I don't know. I don't even have any thought about it. They said, yeah, Mike, you buy the property. And I ran the numbers and I said, okay, but here's my offer, but it's terrible. You don't want to do this. It's awful, but it's what I need to make the cash flow work. And they're like, yeah, we'll take it. Like, what? But I didn't know was that they had a contract on another property, their dream home in another state, and they had to close on it in 60 days. So you don't always have all the information. And so they needed me to cash them out so they could take some of that cash and go close on the other deal. So they lost or took less on their deal. I think it was 20 or 25 grand, but they made like 100 grand on the other deal if they could move fast. So to them, it just made sense and everybody won. So you don't know all the pieces in the table and not everybody shares. So just make sure that you do full disclosure. You don't want to take advantage of people in these situations. You're trying to figure out how can you help them achieve whatever they're trying to do. All right. So keep that in mind. Oh, we're going all over today. This is fun. Let's do this. We're coming down towards the end. We got a few minutes left. I want to make sure that everybody who wanted to have their idea thrown out there gets a chance for us to talk about it. If you've got anything that you want us to chat about on either repeated referrals, any of the topics we've talked about so far, or anything you want us to talk about in your real estate practice, now's a great time to unmute yourself and let us know what you're thinking. All right, good. Well, hopefully this has been helpful. I'll leave it for one last opportunity for any comments on what we've talked about today or anything you want to add. If you have anything you want to chat about, add, or leave us with, go ahead and unmute yourself and let us know. All right, cool. Well, this has been a lot of fun on this call. Thank you so much for joining us. And thank you to everyone who has participated. And if I forget a name, I apologize, but I think we have Blake participated, Angela participated, Juanita participated. Thank you so much. That's what makes these calls work, is for people to jump in and give us some ideas and some topics for us to focus on. We do these calls every Tuesday, so be sure to come back same time, same place if you'd like to do it again. And we also record the calls. And if the recording comes out, which they typically do, but if it comes out, we're going to post it on our Facebook group. The Referral Mastermind call is there if you want to re-listen to any of this, and also on the YouTube channel. And that's at Mastermind Agent Network is where you can find it. Mastermind Agent Network. If you go into YouTube and type in Mastermind Agent Network, you'll find the channel. And under the channel, we put it in the Referral Mastermind section, Referral Mastermind section. All right, again, that was wonderful. Thank you for joining us. I hope you, as we're coming to the end of the year, I hope you have a fantastic conclusion to 2022, and you have a wonderful new year starting up. Be sure to be setting your goals and your objectives for the upcoming year, and be setting up your annual marketing plan for 2023 if you haven't done it already. This is a perfect time to do it. All right, thank you again, everybody, for joining us, and you have a fantastic afternoon. Take care.